This thing that I have found is what I would call my gracious space. Here we are, folks. Jack Carlisle and Annie Morgan, Gracious Spaces. We have the honor of a repeat guest today, Mr. J.P. Beal.
Thank you for having me back.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming back. Not often does that happen.
Well,
so I'm glad your experience was okay.
I don't know why. It was a fantastic experience the last time.
We had a good time. I don't recall which episode that is, folks, but you can go back into our YouTube or our social media and find it really easily. A lot of the conversation was based upon your family and a generational thing and what we're going to talk about today as well. But there's some exciting stuff has happened in between then and now.
Oh, yes.
I think his shirt gives away a little bit of what we're going to talk about today.
Exactly.
I call it my Grove camouflage.
Okay. Yes, I can see how that. Where is JP among? I have one similar. I was going to wear it, but I didn't want to be twinsies.
Well, there's enough room in the Orange Grove for everyone, I think.
There you go. But I have a question. And I don't know if I'm happy about this or not happy about this, but who is this Laszlo Montgomery guy?
Oh,
because
yes.
I heard you just this morning say he was your favorite podcast host.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, I got competition? Who is this guy?
Well, he might be an awesome guest for Gracious Spaces. He is a local podcaster who does something called the China History Podcast. And there was a spinoff also on the history of tea. And so, of course, citrus fits in with that. Yeah. He's here local in Southern California, but has a fantastic background. I guess the State Department calls him in to consult on issues of Chinese culture for the embassies.
See, and I just, in my head, I just thought of a sticky rice marmalade tea.
Ooh.
Using your marmalade, investigating the tea on his end, right? With a sticky rice.
That sounds lovely.
We have something here.
I think so.
Are you on that?
I'm on that. Yeah.
There are makers, we don't do this quite yet, but there are makers who produce marmalade with tea as an inclusion in it. So the flavor would absolutely go fantastic.
So you know what I'm talking about, like the mango rice, the mango sticky rice? Yeah, like that.
That would be delicious.
Right?
I'll give you a week.
Okay.
Expect that for lunch next week. Maybe we'll have Laszlo over.
Should this be part 2 of the podcast? Am I coming back again?
That would be part 3. Yeah.
Yes. Well, you're quite impressive, this gentleman. I am joking. You, of course, know that. But I did follow up through him, and what an impressive gentleman he is, and clearly a passion for tea.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Lots of tea to spill on that podcast, for sure.
There you go. Well, California, so this, folks, is leading us up to, of course, this gentleman and the heritage of his family and their citrus growers and make many, many beautiful products with citrus. But the orange in itself is so iconic with California, but it's not original to California.
No, it is not.
China, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, of course, there are thousands of varieties of citrus, which we only ever really see the tip of the iceberg, if you go to the grocery store or to the nursery. But they all come from just 3 original stem varieties of citrus that all come from Southeast Asia and from southern China thousands of years ago. And the way they arrived in California is a really complex journey, basically traveling entirely around the world. Huh. I mean, even our mandarin marmalade here is made from heirloom satsumas. That story comes with the Japanese immigrants to California during the gold rush. And so, many of the tangerine varieties we love and take for granted here in California today, we have from Japan, and that's a part of California history that way.
So that makes me think that was an easily carried item. Longevity was there as far as the freshness. They could carry it.
Yes, yes and no. So, I mean, you get into the history of tea. Even the process of moving it from China to India required some technological innovations to make that possible. Wardian cases, I mean, you sell things like that here in the potting shed. Those hadn't been invented at a certain time, and they were basically mass-produced in order to take specimens from China to other parts of the world if they were already growing. For seeded varieties of citrus, you would be very easily able to take seeds with you wherever you went. And I think
seeds.
that's probably how our mandarins arrived in California originally, were with the seeds. The Valencia orange, for example, kind of an iconic. It's really kind of California's first variety of citrus. It's developed from out of the gardens of the missions from San Gabriel and from San Fernando specifically. Yeah. So, and they were developed in what's now Skid Row. I mean, imagine that was an orange grove at one point in time. So, I mean, it developed in California, but from seeds that were brought by the Spanish to Southern California over 200 years ago.
Wow.
And we have the ideal growing situation.
They say that of the world's arable land mass, less than 1% of it is ideally suited to the cultivation of citrus. And here in the Santa Ana River Valley, we make up a lot of that surface area.
Less than 1%.
Less than 1%.
Pretty intense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then San Fernando, but I think of heat. Redlands,
yes.
where your family's from, intensely hot.
Certainly.
But that's what they prefer. Is that...
It can depend because, of course, here in Orange County, Valencia oranges were Orange County was the world's center of Valencia orange production at around the time of World War I, and still does really, really well with lemons. And so certain varieties tolerate temperature swings better than others. So, for instance, our Meyer lemons here, which are not actually technically true lemons. They have a tangerine cross in them, which makes them a little more hot and cold tolerant than, say, a Eureka or a Lisbon like you would find on the coast. But that heat can have an impact on the flavor of the citrus. Of course, it helps concentrate sugars and it causes acidity to drop. So for that summer ripening citrus, the heat definitely has an impact. I mean, that's a perfect example, Jack, of like how microclimates can impact the flavor of citrus in ways, there are other crops than just wine where microclimates have a difference.
Well, and there's such a big soil difference too. You've got clay, you've got sandy.
Absolutely.
So obviously varieties would prefer one or the other or can adapt to that.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Lemons, I think, typically do better with sandier soil than oranges and tangerines.
Is it well draining?
Yes. Yeah. And people think about this with wine too, that if the plant struggles ever so slightly, it allows it to put more of its resources into the fruit production. When you stress a plant slightly, it focuses on reproduction. Which impacts fruit and flowers. And so you find that sandy soil might have a flavor impact. Of course, if you ask two citrus farmers their opinion, you'll get three different answers.
Of course.
So,
I love that.
These things are for fighting.
There's no right or wrong answer. Everybody is pretty much right.
Well, you know that, Jack.
Yeah.
Culturalist.
Yeah, well, yeah. Keep it simple is what I say.
For sure.
Facts. Basics. So was there ever a point though, because your family, you have a heritage, your heritage is citrus growing. Was there ever a point that it became more of your passion than just expectations of going into this business because it was a family business?
I don't know that I ever felt pressure to go into this business. And I think probably growing up, it was just part of the furniture for me. Yeah. Like anyone's childhood, you never really think of your childhood as unusual. And then you move away. I think that moment for me is when I went to go to college and left the area and realized what the rest of the world has to deal with in terms of orange juice. I started to realize, these fruit stands don't exist in every town across the country. These things that we take for granted about life here in Southern California. I began to see that I missed it. You don't know what you've got till it's gone. Right. And so I came back after 10 years, starting a career, going to school, and I realized that it was kind of the passion that I didn't realize I had. And so that is when Old California Botanicals, my company, was born.
It was more of a calling.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because I think there are a lot of memories baked into my family's experience, into my growing up, that impact how I love the place I live, and I want other people to experience it the way I have. And so that was really the motivation behind starting all of this, was finding these unique experiences that maybe aren't as easily accessible now as they might have been 100 years ago, but were instrumental in making Orange, California, or Redlands or Riverside, these things that we all love, the beautiful houses, the beautiful plantings. And so I wanted to be able to sort of capture those unusual things. It's not that they disappeared, they kind of went out of fashion, but that doesn't mean that the value proposition isn't still there.
Do you feel there's a resurgence of wanting to feel this more nostalgia, the memories it brings?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
Well, I think you've seen that too, Jack.
Oh, certainly.
With our Orange Blossom perfume, it's brought back strong memories from folks that visit your store. And I've seen that when we do our Meet the Maker events with you.
Yeah.
That people have memories of going to Knott's Berry Farm and finding it there in the store, or growing up in the middle of a grove here. And, we're gratified that people feel this connection.
Are you aware of how many original groves or partials of groves are still here? There's probably not one particular large grove that still exists.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
So, I mean, here in Orange, we were just talking about the Heritage Grove down by the 22. I don't know exactly how old the grove is, but one would have to imagine, that goes back to the very early days of the city. And there's ways that you can actually date an orange tree by looking at the trunk, by looking at the graft union. Most of these trees are grafted onto particular types of rootstock. Yeah. So even the type of rootstock that got used will give you an idea of how old a tree is. If there's no visible graft union, that's also a sign. If there's scoring marks on the trunk, that's called girdling, and that only... that disappeared maybe about 50 years ago. So right off the bat, that will tell you, this is a really antique method of taking care of a tree, and that'll give you a clue as to its age. As far as your Belinda is concerned, I think I am aware of one 5-acre grove left on a property that dates back to the 19th century.
Wow.
And apparently it is still in the family that's had it for about 100 years now, or a little over. I'm not sharp on that history, but I've been told about it. And I think it's oranges and lemons.
Okay.
And of course, Yorba Linda is one of those first places where citrus gets cultivated in Orange County, inside the Santa Ana Canyon. I call it the Green River Canyon. 1857, the Valencia orange, it's one of the first commercial citrus groves in the state of California, is planted there in Yorba Linda.
Wow.
We have to give a little bit of a shout out to the Orange Homegrown Farmers Market and their foundation, because they help maintain that citrus grove we talked about by the 22 Freeway, the heritage property there. And they gather volunteers, go and clean and prune and sweep and do all the wonderful things that help keep it going today.
That's fantastic. It's important to do.
Yeah. So thank you to the Orange Homegrown Foundation. What do you think there was a turning point where citrus growing wasn't as popular or needed in one's view? Because it's always needed, but...
Yes, I think there was a point in California history right at the end of World War II where the GIs came home after World War II. There was the need to provide housing to all of these veterans that had come home and were starting the baby boom and all of that. And so you saw a lot of this sprawl. It had already existed in California, 1920s and before even, but you saw another era of sprawl in California. And that was when you began to see a lot of this acreage in Orange and LA counties and further east of here begin to disappear. There was high demand for the property. Yeah. Doesn't mean that, and there were environmental factors as well. Up our way, we can point to a couple freeze years and some droughts at that point in time that made it difficult for citrus growers. And so it was really kind of a perfect storm where, you had a couple bad years when you were growing your citrus and all of a sudden a check arrives in the mail. A lot of people understandably made these choices. But a lot of these people then decided to move up to, say, the Central Valley and farm up there as well. And so you began to see sort of a migration of agriculture up into the Central Valley
Different
as well.
crops, though. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. More grapes,
All sorts of things.
tomatoes.
And up in the Visalia, Porterville area, up on the way up to the Sequoias, I think that's where a lot of the citrus growers ended up, Tulare County and things.
Yeah.
But certainly, there are a few of us who remain. Up in the Redlands area, there's about 2,200 acres of citrus left of what was originally 60,000. And of course, I mean, Orange County had hundreds of thousands of acres. It was the center of Valencia cultivation by the end of World War I. Lost 85% of its prime farmland over the last 40 years alone.
Yeah.
So you have farmers who grow in between literal airplane runways. It's a real story of resilience to be a farmer here in Orange County.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's just not there anymore. Yeah.
They're hiding in plain sight.
So then those groves in Redlands, where does that fruit end up? Is that a supermarket?
It's a variety of places. Okay. And so, I mean, like the standard model, that existed forever in California was a packing house model. And so, I mean, of course, Placentia and Fullerton had a lot of these packing houses that serviced Orange. And, there was a Sunkist office here.
Yeah.
The packing house model has been, going through sort of an era of consolidation and some challenges to actually just produce processing in general here in California.
Yeah.
So, that's caused citrus growers to think differently, to think about, products they can make for themselves, direct marketing of their own produce, whether that be at farmers markets. That's actually really the only federal support that the Department of Agriculture considers it gives the citrus industry, and about 99% of California crops is just the ability to sell at farmers markets. Which is something. And, I don't want to say otherwise, but the ability to sell ice to Eskimos, basically, pardon the phrase, but, everybody's got a backyard orange tree. Mm-hmm. And if you've got acres of citrus to sell and you're selling it into the local market, you can understand that can be sometimes difficult. Yeah. So, the idea of producing products from things to ensure that, some of the world's best citrus doesn't just fall to the ground uneaten.
Which a lot does.
A lot does.
Yeah,
About
sadly.
20% of the California citrus crop annually goes unused. Yeah. It's a terrible waste.
Well, then you have certain things like diseases that are not in our control that are limiting the growing of citrus as well.
Citrus it's not an easy thing. It's, money doesn't grow on trees, and, it takes an awful lot of care to operate a grove and ensure that that moment in the grocery store is just sort of a split-second decision. There's any number of factors that you're looking at in terms of grading an orange, although the bone I have to pick is when you do citrus judging at some of these county fairs, there's like 8 or 9 different criteria. The evenness of the peel when you slice it, how do the slices look? Are they even? What are the number of slices? The rag, is there puff? All these things. They don't judge on flavor.
Which is what you think would be number one.
You'd think.
Part of their...
Yeah.
Interesting.
And, I think that's what's been really kind of an interesting thought experiment about this is the ability to use rare, unusual flavors that you don't necessarily see in the store, because there are certain types that get chosen, for shelf life or for shippability, or the seedless factor is a big deal for people. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of these hundreds of different varieties that got developed here in Southern California that are delicious, that don't make it to the market. I mean, even the Meyer lemon is not frequently marketed in the grocery market.
They just get overlooked.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Just because they may not last well on the shelf. The peel might be thin. It might dry out easily. There's any number of factors. But, that's kind of the importance of your local fruit stand, to find some of these rare varieties, these tree-ripened flavors. And, that's what we try to capture in our marmalades.
I admire you in the regard, because you are very clearly passionate about this, but you are also an advocate for all of us. You are on many boards. You go to Washington, D.C., you lobby for us, for all these things. Tell us a little bit about that part of what you do.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm involved with the Farm Bureau here in California. I'm on a state committee for what's effectively our young professionals section. It's called Young Farmers and Ranchers. And actually, I am the rep for Orange County area, we don't have a YF&R chapter. So if you're 35 and under and you're interested in gardening and horticulture and agriculture, you don't have to be a farmer. If you just have a passion for this sort of thing, shout us out. It's a fantastic way to meet other like-minded people and learn more about, if you think maybe in the future you might like to start a farm. Or what does a farm look like now where you're not working with a 10-acre property? You see micro farms and urban farms coming up. So, I mean, the face of agriculture is constantly changing. It's a great way to get involved that way. And there's other opportunities to get involved. So I participate in calling on the Capitol annually, and I've engaged some of our lawmakers back in D.C. too. Land use is kind of a passion of mine on the side, and we don't need to talk about zoning and put people to sleep. But how
do you feel you're what's the word I want to say? Accepting of your ideas when you go and lobby for the land use?
I think so.
Well-received ideas, yeah?
I mean, certain people have strong opinions and they have things they want to get out of the planning system. But in general, when I work with, whether they be people who work for any of our agencies or whether they be elected officials or staffers, the common theme I find is that we've kind of reached a point in Southern California where there is this grove down the street, but people can't really see in it. They can't see the grove for the trees. They don't really realize that what's being grown here is significant. It's, being marketed at grocery stores across the country, or this might be appearing in Trader Joe's, or this is appearing on the plates of 18 school districts across Southern California, or they're feeding food banks. They're having this huge impact, to answer the second part of your question, that, the packing house model is shifting. And so food banks and school districts, things like that are really an important thing. And the local sourcing of produce is really important because that allows the produce to fully ripen, achieve its full nutritional value. And, what do we want to be feeding our children? So it's,
I don't
people
want to
don't think.
I don't want to say we take it for granted, but we kind of do, don't we? Yeah.
I mean, it's hard living around everything that's so good. And, if that's all we're ever exposed to, I think we can very easily assume that it becomes common.
Yeah. Well, it's like you grew up, you moved away, you suddenly realized, I miss home and I miss my fresh fruits. And you came back. It's like we're so used to it being there in our day-to-day lives. Maybe perhaps if it were taken away, we'd be like, whoa,
Certainly.
Then let's just cut to the chase on what do you do with your marmalades? Annie had a great idea.
I'm going to dive into the culinary side. You guys got your deal, okay? We went through all that. And so I'm going to step in now. And so I'm sitting here and I'm listening to everything and I'm wondering at what point did you step in the kitchen or were you in the kitchen with your mother, your grandmother, your family? Were you guys conjuring up jams and jellies, and what were you doing with all this that were falling off the trees and, creating all these, memories just in the kitchen alone that would coincide with your legacy and the story that you would pass on to your children and to their children?
Absolutely. Well, and I mean, I think that's kind of a thing that gets overlooked is the impact of agriculture on Southern California foodways. And that's kind of a passion project of mine in my spare time is looking at some of the history of food in this area. And I mean the marmalades are kind of a great example of that. I mean, and there's also a sourdough starter we sell here at the Potting Shed. That's
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's harvested from orange blossoms.
You've been holding out on me.
I know somebody. I'll get you some.
And that's a food way that we re-engaged with through a family friend who grew up in Whittier during the Great Depression and learned that from her grandmother. Before Fleischmann's and commercially available yeast was around, that was how people were getting yeast for their bread. And
I think if I heard that right, you said orange blossom, so not the fruit itself, but the blossom.
Yes. And it is possible to get it from fruit that is beginning to go bad. I think I was seeing recently that certain types of yeast, like for sweet rolls and things in Italy, you can use fruit from the kitchen. But no, this used the actual flowers, the blossoms.
Wow.
And so it happens are trees are a great ecosystem for local native wild yeasts. And so those tend to be more tolerant of the environmental conditions of our kitchens than, say, that lovely, fancy, expensive starter you buy from San Francisco that's used to a humid climate. And I'm ashamed to say I happen to have a graveyard of it. It's like the second you name it, it dies. At least for me.
It's a commitment, though.
It is.
Oh
it
my
is.
gosh.
But I find that this is a really resilient starter. It can hang on a long time just because it's in the climate that it's used to. And I mean, it's the same experience with native plants, right? But to your question about the marmalades, we've had the privilege to look at some historic cookbooks. So like the Orange Show, for example, up in San Bernardino County, used to publish cookbooks of all the different ways you could work with citrus and with marmalades and things like that. And this is, I hear from people all the time, a very traditional gift for people to send to family outside of California and say, you know, wish you were here, I guess, or you wish you were here. But this gets woven a little bit into the Santa Fe Railroad. So, you know, they were a huge tourist driver for Southern California for a very long time. And, you know, you get into Harvey Girls and things like that. You know, there's a movie with famous Hollywood stars in it. But the trains didn't have onboard dining. You would have to step off the train and you would enjoy your meals at various points along the journey. And it would take almost 4 days to get from Chicago to Southern California. But along the way, you would want to make sure that you could experience tastes of California as you were traveling along the way. You might have the fresh citrus while it was in season. They were shipping it too. But when it was out of season, what do? You couldn't just order the stuff from Chile or Brazil or wherever, you know, the way we do now. Which, you know, is the answer to the question, guys. You can't find a California navel in August for a reason. We do encounter people who are trying to turn over the tables inside a fruit stand saying, where's that California navel? It's like, come back in January. Or buy a marmalade that's made with the California citrus and it extended the tasting season year round. And so the recipes that we actually work with on our marmalades are antique recipes from the Santa Fe Railroad.
That is fantastic.
Pretty cool, huh?
That is so cool. I don't think people realize what they find in old cookbooks. You know, you want to talk scratch, that is scratch. It's like, I don't really think they understand that. There is on Instagram someone who has dug deep, and every now and then they'll bring up an old recipe from some old book, whether it's from their grandmother's, you know, recipe box or from some vintage recipe book, and they'll post it. And that it's just, I love that. I just can't even tell you how much I love those vintage recipes. And for you to go there and create something that is now on the shelves, that's just fantastic.
Thank you. I mean, it's really sort of a childhood memory of mine too. All of my family were canners. You grow up in California, you end up with a bumper crop of produce. What do you do with it? But you have to figure out how to preserve it so you don't waste it. And so, I mean, the philosophy of how we can in our kitchen at home is in all of these. You know, commercially, you might find that fruit that doesn't get sold for the fresh produce market is what gets used in jams. We were brought up with the philosophy that if there are faults or blemishes or things that you wouldn't necessarily want to eat, it would impact the preservation capability. And so we kind of turn the philosophy on its head. We want the tree ripened. We want to work with it the moment it's picked. We want the very best. And the result is unique flavor notes. You know, we have other methods as well, our microclimate, all that's, you know, considered. You get an array of flavors of unusual but naturally occurring flavors from allspice to papaya to honey to blackberry to maraschino cherry that appear in each of our jars.
That's amazing. And it speaks for in all your awards, and you know, just all your awards that you've won. That big stack of 8 awards. What really intrigues me about them. So you went to London?
Actually, the exact opposite end of the country. I went to in a Southern California perspective, a small town called Penrith, practically on the Scottish border. So we actually flew into Edinburgh because that was one of the closest airports, and 3 train stations down is Penrith. It's in a place called Cumbria near the Lake District. So it's where Beatrix Potter wrote a lot of her stories. It's just imagine England's Yellowstone. It's
See,
just
and would you
gorgeous.
consider that a place where marmalade is, I mean, they know their marmalade.
Oh, yes. And, talking about food history and antique recipes, it surprises people that, marmalade is something that crystallizes for many in the UK, in England, and in Scotland. And the World Marmalade Awards is located in this town because it's held at the house of the family that owns the oldest documented recipes for marmalade in the world. They date back to the late 17th century. They predate the strips of peel. I mean, you've probably seen this when I've done tastings. Sometimes people think I came up with the idea of putting peel in marmalade. I wish I could take credit, but no, that's not me. That was a Scottish lady in Dundee in the 1700s. Came up with that. But in the late 1600s, marmalade was seen almost as medicine. It was these cookbooks that have these recipes from I think they estimate it's the 1680s. Document recipes for home cures and holistic medicine, and then these would have been used as an aphrodisiac and other things like that. I mean, the medical philosophy has changed quite a bit over 400 years, but it predates the use of peel in strips. You would have boiled the peel within an inch of its life and forced it through a sieve strainer to integrate it into the jam. And it was before England even had a regular supply of sugar from the West Indies. And so one of these recipes also calls for the boiling down of the orange juice into a sugar syrup. Oh. There's an awful lot of work that went into making marmalade. I'm very glad I live in the era I do.
Right? Oh,
But they use every inch.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Waste
it's
not, want
important.
not.
Yeah.
These were very rare and expensive things to be importing to the UK. They came from Spain, which, interestingly enough, entrants came from 40 different countries around the world to this competition.
And how many entries?
3,400 jars. And so each one of our jars that we entered medaled. The California Navel Orange got our silver medal. We got a silver, 5 bronzes, and 2 merits.
Wow.
Judges came from Fortnum and Mason and Harrods and other places. And
Oh my
And this is the world.
the world. And
So once they tasted it, what are the odds that you could put your product in like Harrods?
well, they select 3. Fortnum and Mason selects 3 contestants every year from out of this competition to place on their shelves for a year.
Oh my goodness.
So we didn't make the cut this year, but we are sharpening our knives.
Yes,
We're
You can still find it at the potting shed.
This is true. Fortnum and Masons of Southern California.
Right, there you go.
There you go.
Who needs Harrods?
We'll be happy to ship.
The flavors were really interesting. One of the ones that Fortnum and Mason chose actually was a lemon horseradish, which was
Wow. Were you able to taste your
had-
competitive entries? Really?
Yes. They had 500 jars out for the contestants and for the public to taste. They had something like over 2,000 attendees descend on the festival. And here's the founder with a small stack of the jars. And this is what they call the marmalade altar
That's
Oh my goodness.
inside the dining room of the main
and
house.
it's yours on that altar.
It was not in the postcard.
Yeah, but
For a moment in time, yes.
yes,
And then this is the house where we had it. Imagine sort of the Great British Bake Off, but like
Right,
marmalade
right.
edition.
Exactly.
And I'm told this is all very humane. So, but they spray painted some of the sheep orange. And it washes off when it rains. So, I mean,
Sure.
again, it's not toxic or anything, but anyway, orange sheep. Anyway, they really got into it.
and dignitaries from
Yes.
Duchess.
In the past, Prince Charles has attended this multiple times before he was crowned. The Japanese ambassador has attended in past years. This year, it was the ambassador from Spain. And so the High Sheriff of Cumbria, who actually presented the awards, was talking with me, and she says she likes to call it Marmalade Diplomacy, which I really quite like because there's conversations happening there at this festival about trade agreements, ensuring that the UK and Europe get access to citrus from different parts of the world. And so Japan sent its representative in past years, and Spain, they don't actually, so the ambassador was saying, use the Seville orange for much, the bitter orange. So we don't actually work with those with any of our flavors yet, but that's the bitterness that people sometimes associate with traditional marmalade. Is these bitter oranges. They're special.
But you get a little of that bitterness off of the grapefruit.
Yes. And so we try to produce a broad spectrum of flavors so that, there's something there for everybody. People who are looking for that more classic British experience will really enjoy our grapefruits. People who are a little averse to the bitterness, which, believe it or not, that's something the UK is thinking about too. There are people who love and appreciate it, and there's some people who really are hands off. So we try to produce an array of options for folks.
Well, I love your flavors. I just love your flavors. The mandarin marmalade, the grapefruit. Oh my gosh. And I told you, I did an event and I used the grapefruit and I stuffed it into brie with a little basil. Ooh. It was really, really good. Really good.
I bet the basil combination was lovely.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I think that's what people don't really realize with this is, I think those of us who know about marmalade associate this with breakfast. And they may associate jams in general with breakfast.
Sure.
But what's been really fun about this aspect is seeing all the different ways that it can be used. So, we entered not only as examples of the fruit, but in the savory category as well. So for savory pairings and as a cooking ingredient. So, killer on a charcuterie board, killer on a baked brie.
I would imagine the mandarin would go well with duck as well.
Oh, yes.
Right? Yeah.
Killer on a Hawaiian roll, too, if you're still looking for like a bread pairing. We get people who ask for bread pairings and things.
Yes. Yeah. I propose that you and I should do something.
Here we go.
Here we go. Jack's
She's now become a stalker. So let me just warn you. We should have paid for it for people.
Eric. I am pursuing the investigating.
Okay,
yes. So I propose that you and I come together and I will do fresh baked bread. You bring your marmalade and I'll do other savory stuff. And we do a little thing here.
Sure.
How do you feel about it?
I'm on board.
Yeah, I think that's
fantastic.
So
if you're
cool.
cooking, I'm
Let's
in.
do it.
Yes, I would love that. I would love to do that.
Maybe the next Meet the Makers event.
For sure.
That would be kind of nice to have.
Yes, that would be so cool. I have vivid memories of being in the kitchen with my grandmother. So I'm Hawaiian Portuguese. I was born in Hawaii. My parents brought us here very early on, and we would go home every summer. And the minute I would step into my grandmother's house, because we would always stay with my Portuguese grandmother, the minute we even just hit the gate, you could smell the guava jam cooking on the stove.
The very best.
And the mango, the baskets of mango in the kitchen. And so I can just imagine. I'd like you to share with me how did this recipe come about? Did it start in your home kitchen? Was it something that you had put in the growth plan, or how did that happen?
Well, believe it or not, this is really one of my more recent products. And the Potting Shed's been one of our longest standing retail partners, which we're grateful for. But that we started in a very different place than this.
Yeah. Which is also wonderful.
Well, thank you.
Candles and lip balm
and fragrances and things.
Yeah.
So you're more on the beauty side.
I'd say certainly after the awards, we're definitely a marmalade company with fragrance. Whereas before that, we were a fragrance company with marmalade.
Things awards to back you up.
I
for
suppose
sure.
So. But it really sort of began with our soap, which is something my great-grandfather, he is sort of an inspiration for a lot of what we do with this company, developed in the 1920s in citrus country. He moved from Ohio. He had learned how to make soap on his grandmother's farm in Pennsylvania, and he grew up in a household where citrus was in your stocking once a year at a time when, for the United States, less than a quarter of our population had regular exposure to or access to citrus. And so he moved here and went absolutely citrus crazy. And let's see. This is him standing in front of the Santa Fe Depot at Patton on the kite-shaped track in 1916. abouts.
Yeah.
He had come up from Hollywood and was taking the trip. And then the very next picture is him with a buddy standing in front of an orange tree. It would have been the summer, we think. So this would have been a Valencia orange he's standing with.
I know. I was thinking that, Annie. I loved how they dressed.
He had not figured out that black in the summer was not something we do here yet.
The citrus mafia over there.
There's another one of him standing next to a cactus, too. I mean, like eventually his wife moved from Norway. They met here in California. She used to dip California flowers in paraffin wax and make sort of like a wax arrangement for the centerpiece. I mean, they were just so in love with everything that grew here.
Wow.
But the soap was really kind of where we began. And so we found local orange essential oil the way he was doing it 100 years ago. We're using his recipe, his mold. And we even used dried orange peel as an exfoliant. But I began to think, okay, well, so we're finding these things. There are farmers who have this incredible stuff, and it's not making it to the market. What are other things we can do with it? Meanwhile, our, like I said, my family cans. A section of my family's from up north, and my mother has memories of going up and helping Aunt Dorothy can pears when they were in season. And they'd come down and can whatever. And I mean, to the Hawaiian thing, we have cousins in Hawaii now. And so we go over and house sit, and we like to can the papayas that are growing around there on the Big Island. And, I mean, there's a whole other conversation about the Portuguese impact on Hawaiian and Californian cuisine. I'd love to get into at some point. But
let's go.
Oh, yes.
Episode, we're up to 4 and 5 now.
You could say we travel by canning. So, I mean, it's very much that California experience. And so this was a way of sharing that with people.
Think for the whole U.S. even, really. The canning, for me, corn, for sure, back east.
Green
and that was a season,
Yeah.
It was a project, and your friends jumped in. Your mother-in-law, your grandma, everybody, your aunt, they all came over to help. So it's very much something that we all connect with, what you're doing, and it's phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, ensuring that locally grown produce, fully ripe, fully flavorful, makes it through the season, and you get to use its nourishment instead of allowing it to expire or go to waste.
Right.
And it carries you through the non-season.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. It's just, there's so much more to this conversation, right? And it
tough,
can
right?
branch off into so many different things, but it just shows, when you go back in time, what you can bring into our time that stays with us, doesn't get lost, and gets passed on. And I think that's really important to keep passing it on, because it's so easily lost. But thank goodness for the people like your family and other people like the Instagram person who is just sharing and sharing and sharing, that keeps it alive and well, So
I think that need or desire to understand it as well is happening as well. So that generation will then carry it forward.
And for you to take this and go to a land where it's their thing and walk away with all of that speaks volumes.
Over 3,000 entries. That's
right.
mind-blowing to me.
It speaks volumes for passion, too, because you don't get there without some passion attached to it, or that being your drive, right? So, it's just a fantastic story. And there's so much more I know to tell about it, and how it will continue to grow as your family keeps passing this down to generations.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I like the sustainable aspect of it all. I mean, we focus on food waste, and we focus on eating local and ensuring that, there's pollution that goes with global supply chains. The aspect of being able to extend a season year round that way, there's such a focus on sustainability in this day and age, but I don't know that we fully give past generations credit for the things that they were doing that are still very sustainable. And these are things that we can use.
I think especially now, a lot is being forgotten purposely so that the moving forward can be justified. Does that make sense?
It does.
So things don't have to be considered in moving forward. When that's not true, everything needs to be considered in moving forward, especially from a healthy perspective.
Certainly.
Because there's certain things that are being substituted, that don't need to be substituted. You just keep taking what worked back then should work now, right? So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of my questions I was going to ask, I think is being answered right here now is that do you consider that your legacy? And I think that keeping up the history, the integrity, the lobbying, the sustainability, all wrapped into one, I believe is.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt, you're definitely on the right track with that. And I love it's your gracious space, right?
Certainly. I'm happy to share it with everyone, and I appreciate your helping me share it today as well.
Well, we will definitely see. I have this thing. If it comes out of my mouth, I got to do it. So,
All right. We'll shake on it then.
we will. And I love that because people forget what a handshake really means. So, yes, we will definitely do that.
And if it involves food, I'm going to be right there reminding you, hey, we got this coming up.
Well, keep your eyes peeled, everyone. You might have a tasting event in the making right here.
Yes,
No pun
yes.
intended, right?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, folks, we could go on and on and on, but what a pleasure. Thank you for coming back into the studio. And I love that Annie was here. This is right up her jam. This is her jam.
Just by chance.
Absolutely. Marmalade, it's our jam.
We better end it there. All right. Thank you so much, JP, for being here on our episode of Gracious Spaces. We appreciate the conversation of all things citrus.
Thank you so much, Jack. Happy to be here. And as we like to say on our Old California Botanicals social medias, keep it zesty.
Keep it zesty, folks.
Keep it zesty.